But what is it about parades and celebrations and flags and fireworks that animate this country in such a way that is not that is actually almost ridiculed in many other countries? What is it about symbols and patriotism? What is it about even something like flag burning? I remember, I think I'm right to think that Hillary Clinton disappointed a number of her most liberal supporters a few years ago when she said flag burning should be a crime.
Yeah.
What is it about this issue?
And in other countries, the flag burning is not a huge issue that reaches the Supreme Court. Flag salute cases we had reaching the Supreme Court in the 1940s. Well, I think what our devotion to the symbols of patriotism signifies is that belonging by belief, shared ideals, admirable and central though it is, and liberating, is not a self-sufficient form, a way of belonging. And so there is a yearning, and there is a hunger, and there is a need for a sense of belonging, summoning up shared purposes, symbols, traditions, celebrations. And so I think what it shows is the need to create, some political philosophers say you almost need a kind of civil religion to hold a people together, especially a diverse people. Ideas and ideals and principles and reasons and arguments, powerful though they are not enough. They have to be accompanied by, swathed within, traditions, celebrations, rituals, and I think politicians who miss that, who think it's only about the ideals and the arguments and the reasons, miss an important part of what it is that Americans care about.
But that bigger purpose, isn't that essential, and isn't that aspect of patriotism and love of country and common purpose that people celebrate on the 4th? Isn't that one of the reasons that America does accomplish and reach higher traditionally for many things? And we think about some of the things we've been talking about this week, like the problem of sustainability or the challenge of climate change. And how can we expect those kinds of problems to be solved if people don't have love for country, if they're not patriotic in the best sense of the word, not the swelling vanities, not the false patriotism, but if something requires sacrifice, doesn't it almost necessitate a degree of pride and love in country? Or is there a disagreement about that?
I agree.
Yeah, and I think this is a great American success story that we have managed over 2 centuries and more to create and sustain a sense of common purpose and identity, but in the face of a lot of obstacles, not least of all the fact that we originated as a multiracial and multi-ethnic society, and we've become even more so over the years. Again, I go back to there are 3 great nation builders in the 19th century. It's Abraham Lincoln, who reconstitutes and redefines the American nation. There's Prince Bismarck, who creates modern Germany, and Camillo de Cavour, who created modern Italy. And Cavour made a very often quoted remark after the successful unification of the Italian peninsula, which was theretofore, before that time, Italy was known as a geographic expression, but not a political entity. But Cavour said, "We have made Italy, now we must make Italians." We must somehow imbue people with this sense that they now have a new and common identity. But what did Cavour have to work with? What did he do? He instituted policies to extinguish local dialects, and what in Italy is called campanilismo, or the devotion to the local community, and to substitute for that a common Italian language and loyalty to the new nation state. There was not that kind of natural, organic, common, ethnic, religious, confessional, historical, shared experience material to work with in the United States. There's something, that ground is much thinner. Lincoln tries. He tries early on in his presidency. He appeals to the mystic chords of memory as what will hold the nation together. But he knew, I think, that those mystic chords were pretty thin filaments. He just didn't have a lot to work with there. There wasn't that much shared experience and shared culture. What there was shared commitment to the ideals of the Declaration. But as Michael says, I think quite rightly, admirable as all that is, it's just a more difficult medium in which to work to sustain a common sense of identity and purpose.
Jack.
I went to Congress in '71. I had retired from the Buffalo Bills in '70. People in Buffalo think I quit playing football in '67. Formally retired in '70. And we had Watergate, and it was a mess. Vietnam was a mess. Inflation was a mess. We were at wage and price controls. Nixon devalued the dollar. We raised tariffs on Japanese automobiles as if they were the enemy. All sorts of dumb ideas. And the country was ripped by Watergate and Vietnam. And John Gardner of Common Cause wrote a column I'll never forget as long as I live in Newsweek, in which he put forth this little couplet. He said, America today is caught in a crossfire between the unloving critics and the uncritical lovers. On one hand, nihilistic people who wanted to tear it all down and start over and create some nirvana, and the chauvinists who didn't think there was anything wrong. And he said, in the middle must come patriotic men and women who see this country in terms of its strength, who want to mend the flaws, correct the errors and evils, end the war, however you want to put that phrase. And I never forgot that, because I try to give, we have 4 children, 4 spouses, 17 grandchildren, and I think the great purpose of a parent, or grandparent in my case, is to give perspective. What was it like? You know, what was it like back when I was young, or when I was growing up? And every time my children or my grandchildren turn 10 or 12 or 13, I say, you know, I was 10 years old one time. And then I go back and talk about the things the way they were, you know, in 1947. You know, no internet, no email, no fax, no PDA, whoops, no microphones, no PDAs. My grandson said one time, Grandpa, how did you communicate with each other? So I don't think perspective is to wipe out the sins. I think it's to acknowledge the error and work, as you pointed out in that beautiful quote, to correct those flaws. And that's where I think we are today. And I'm a Republican, center-right Republican, Abraham Lincoln Republican. He's my lodestar. I think both McCain and Obama, irrespective of whether or not they wear a pin, with all due respect, I don't wear a pin. That doesn't distinguish me as an American. What distinguishes me as an American is willing to do what you all are doing. Engage in ideas, engage in argument, engage in dissent, engage in the fierce battle of a liberal democracy, 18th century, small l, small d.
Well,